I remember when I was skating, like skateboarding when I was younger, and I remember tattoos were huge and like everybody wanted one. And some of the guys that I idolized the most skated for Independent Trucks, which was a truck company. I loved their graphic. I loved everything about it. And I desperately was like wanting to get an Independent tattoo across my back, like across the top. And it's just the name of a truck company, but I just absolutely loved it. And it's funny because I remember thinking it'd be so cool. It'd be so cool if I got it. And now when I put it into like the analogy that we're using right now when it comes to branding, I think it was because who skated for them, what those guys, what they represented. They were honestly known as the very best trucks around. They were durable. They were awesome. They showed the scars of what you did well, but they held up. If you rode in them, you knew you tried everything else. It didn't work. Those were the best ones to get. Like I felt so connected again to that community. And that's why now that I'm talking it through, realizing that was why I remember desperately. I had a friend that rode for them. And so I was just all in. I'm very thankful I didn't get that tattoo, but...
That'd be amazing. You're like, and here's the reveal. No, just kidding.
And here I am.
Yeah. No, but
it's like tiny right here.
Yeah. It's right on your back, right in the center of your back. So it sounds like it was.
You're like, it looks like a mole. It's just like,
you're like, I swear it says it. It's in script.
Welcome to the Marketing Mirror Podcast, where we help guide and navigate you through the ever-changing world of marketing. So, no smoke and mirrors here, just the unfiltered truth served with a side of wit. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Marketing Mirror Podcast. I am your host, Matt Bork. I'm one of the partners and creators here at Search and Rescue Marketing Agency, and I am joined by one of our creators and amazing human beings, Harley Matos. How are you doing today, Harley?
I am doing wonderful.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for always making the time to do this with me. I truly appreciate it. I am excited to talk to you about today's podcast topic, which is tattoos and your brand. And I knew it was something that would be fun to chat with you about. And I thought I'd give you a little background into why this is something that years ago, this is actually something that I had seen. And I thought, it's amazing when your eyes are kind of open to this. You start to see it everywhere. And the story is that I saw somebody, it actually started with people on their motorcycles when they'd be riding. And I would notice in traffic that they would wave at each other. And I thought, wow, well, like, what is that? Like, why is a guy on a motorcycle that's not even riding the same motorcycle feel the need or the want or the desire to wave at somebody that he doesn't know? And I realized after seeing it multiple times, that's his tribe. That's his people. And then it went even further that I ended up seeing somebody with a Harley Davidson tattoo on their arm. And it just blew my mind. I was like, that's unbelievable. That person, it goes so much more beyond the font, the logo, the colors. This person believes so much that this represented a community and something that he believed in. This was his tribe. He wanted it on his arm to let everybody know as he walked around, just so you know, this is my tribe. And it did say something to me. I had an uncle who rode Harleys, and I remember always thinking, like, he would show up at family things, and I remember always being like, oh, he's badass. Right? Like, just as a little kid, I didn't know. I knew nothing about it. But in our family, nobody rode them. But when he showed up and you heard him, I was like, and it got me thinking that what is, like, the connection between the tattoos and your brand? I was like, I think every brand is after that somebody would put something on there and go, this is my tribe. They know me. We share the same passions, the same values. This is my tribe. And because I know somebody got some new fresh ink, I thought it would be perfect to talk to you about how you feel about tattoos and your brand. So after hearing that story, what do you think?
Yeah, it's so funny. I'm smiling just because I remember, like, when you sent me this topic, I was like, wow, this is a really cool topic. Like, you don't really think about it. At the same time, yeah, I know so many people that have gotten like tattoos on them. Like, I will be the first to say, like, wow, this is a really hilarious story. And my friend Jen's going to kill me for sharing the story. But when we were like, just like the age of getting tattoos, we like drank way too much. And then we went and got, like, your typical teenager, like, we're going to be badass and get these tattoos. And she was drinking Bacardi, and she loved Bacardi, and she loved the Bacardi bat. And so she ended up getting the Bacardi bat tattooed. I got the Superman logo. I still have it. My reasoning for it was like, because I feel like a superhero and I can do anything. Mm-hmm. And I still love it. I never regret it, but and since then she has covered hers up. But it was just interesting because people were like, you got the Bacardi bat. And she was like, it's not about the Bacardi bat. I just really, really just like love this bat. And we're like, it's because you got the Bacardi bat. But I love the story though, and I love like the idea of like, I mean, I have a ton of tattoos, and I recently just got like this huge Disney piece on my arm. And I love the whole connection about it, because you do kind of become part of this club. Like you feel like an official member, like you just invite yourself, and then you find other people that are like-minded that love it as well. Yeah. And I'll use Disney as an example. Like, you know, I have a Disney tattoo because I have like numerous movies and hidden things on my arm. But it's what it represents. And I think like it's really memorable. I think that's the first thing when it comes to like tattooing, but also like the reason behind it. Like you're literally putting something on your body for like the rest of your life, essentially. And it also is like becomes like a part of like who you are. So I think that's really cool too. So for me, like, you know, a lot of my tattoos are very meaningful because there's a story behind it. And that's like a connection that we always talk about too, is like the stories behind each piece. But for me, like the reason why I got mine is because Disney represents so much, like the brand itself represents so much of like magic and just never growing up and just being a kid. And so there's like this beautiful piece to it. So yeah, I love this topic so much because it really speaks to like where I'm at in my life, but also like I understand why people get tattoos, right? Yeah. Like in logos, because they just feel like they're a part of something.
They're connected to it, and they're connected to it more than just. I kind of went down a rabbit hole, to be honest, when I first, like, I remember now because it was so long ago when I thought of this topic and that I had kind of observed it. Now I see it all the time, where I like go around and I have tattoos as well, and I see people with brands of things on their arms, and so it just makes me curious, naturally curious, like, oh, what's the story behind that? And the interesting thing is, like, when I remember thinking when I saw the Harley Davidson tattoo that I was like, you know, there's a lot of other motorcycle manufacturers. What made you choose Harley? And it's interesting because as a kid, I know I can directly say that my Uncle Arnold, who I looked up to a lot, I thought he was just the coolest guy. He was, even in our family, like I always felt, and I don't know if this is true for my other family members, but me as a little kid, I was like, oh, he's the black sheep, right? Like it kind of just was like, and it was really cool to me because, it just was like, and I thought it was cool, but it was interesting because as I would later, I remember attending his wedding, and all these guys, they all rode in on their Harleys. And I remember even as an adult still thinking like, here he comes. Like, that's just so badass. And so Harley Davidson, to me, that brand represented this badass leather, carefree adventurer. Nobody tells them what to do. They do their own thing. They have to know how to maintain a bike because it's always broken down, it seems like, but that's part of it, right? That's part of it. Like, but I also think like what made them choose over all the other manufacturers, and all the other manufacturers probably have their stories as well. And so people relate and say, I'm a Yamaha person, I'm a Honda person, I'm a Suzuki person, whatever it may be. That's my tribe. And, you know, my wife and I have been talking a lot about that. We've seen people who are like, you know what, that's awesome. If they found their tribe, because we see it now all over where you see people go, yeah, they're into things and it might not be what I'm into, but that's their tribe and they found it. And so I guess for me, the power behind it and how we want to get our brands to a place where people go, that's the brand for me. That like, and everything that I listed, when people are like, well, knowing your target audience inside and out, Harley does. They do such a good job at knowing their target audience that they create things that add not just a new product, but they add to that person's lifestyle, that person will wear a torn, ripped Harley shirt for 40 years and they will proudly wear it because that brand represents, they feel who they are. And I think it's such a cool thing, a thing to be admired when it comes to branding. Because it is much, much more than just the logo, the color of the logo, the font. And I think that like, I'm glad that this came up, and I'm glad also too that you got a tattoo because it reminded me when you got the tattoo. But it just had me thinking, I've seen people now with like Nike tattoos, like with Adidas tattoos. And one of my favorites that I saw and I like loved was, do you remember No Fear? I saw a No Fear tattoo.
No, I feel like you're too old. Just kidding.
Yeah, that's okay. It was like a 90s thing where people would wear, like, it was like a No Fear. And it was like a shirt thing. And I remember, and somebody got No Fear. And I thought, oh my goodness, that's hilarious. But I remember when I was skating, like skateboarding when I was younger, and I remember tattoos were huge and like everybody wanted one. And some of the guys that I idolized the most skated for Independent Trucks, which was a truck company. I loved their graphic. I loved everything about it. And I desperately was like wanting to get an Independent tattoo across my back, like across the top. And it's just the name of a truck company, but I just absolutely loved it. And it's funny because I remember thinking it'd be so cool. It'd be so cool if I got it. And now when I put it into like the analogy that we're using right now when it comes to branding, I think it was because who skated for them, what those guys, what they represented.
Yes.
They were honestly known as the very best trucks around. They were durable. They were awesome. They showed the scars of what you did well, but they held up. If you rode in them, you knew you tried everything else. It didn't work. Those were the best ones to get. Like, I felt so connected again to that community. And that's why, now that I'm talking it through, realizing that was why I remember desperately. I had a friend that rode for them. And so I was just all in. I'm very thankful I didn't get that tattoo, but
that'd be amazing. You're like, and here's the reveal. No, just kidding.
And here I am.
Yeah. No, but
it's like tiny right here.
Yeah. It's right on your back, right in the center of your back. So it sounds like it was.
You're like, it looks like a mole. It's just like,
you're like, I swear it says it. It's in script.
You have to look closely, but
yeah, exactly. No, but I love it because when we talk about branding and bringing it back home, like you're talking about Nike and things like that, it's like not even about the logo anymore, right? Like we talk about this even at SNR as well. Is that like it's not about the logo, it's not about the colors, is what it represented, and that's why it's memorable. And then they get the logo because it's a representation of the community or what they believe in and all those things. And like Nike, for
the logo
example,
story is almost like a reminder. Sorry,
yeah, exactly. No, but for sure, like the logo is kind of like this, like it's what it represents, but it's not about the logo. So like it literally could be like a weird palm tree with like a crazy like pineapple, and like it could, and that's like maybe like a juice drink, but it was because what it represented, and so and I love that because it really goes deeper than the logo. It goes deeper than what it represents. And so like when we talk about Nike, for example, Nike did like one of their campaigns was just like interviewing a bunch of, people that were just like not necessarily the top of their game in terms of the type of athletes they are. Maybe athletes that had struggled. Maybe they're currently struggling. They did this whole like campaign around it, and it was like, I don't know, it just became this like uproar, and everyone was like, it's all about Nike, Nike's everything. And everyone knows Nike now, but like if you read the backstory of how it started and all, like just the different stories of how they became so popular. But it's like coming back to the storytelling. Like that's what really is super engaging, is being able to be like, okay, well now we partner with this, or like companies that are like, well now we partner with these communities, or we give back to these foundations and charities, and it just becomes like this whole global thing. But it really always comes back down to like what it represents and who they are and how you can see yourself, like how you're connected in your own values in your own life, which is very cool.
Yeah. Nike did a great job. I've always really appreciated the way that they handled their marketing, because if you look at a lot of their marketing, they don't actually ever really feature their products as the number one piece of content. It's actually amazing people who happen to be wearing their products. And that to me is one of the coolest things as well, is that they know that their products add value, and they believe that they add value to their target audience's lives. So they feature amazing people from all walks of life doing all amazing things, and say these awesome people are awesome who happen to be wearing Nike. And that to me it says everything. It's like, like no matter where you're at in life, we can add a bit of value to that. Do you need like a better trainer? We have a better trainer, because there is actually better trainers than Nike, but Nike does a great job at really, like when you see their marketing efforts, which their marketing efforts are never manipulating. They're never this. They're sort of like these gentle nudges of like, if you like going for a hike, we kind of have a cool hiking shoe you could use. And it's like, and then a picture of somebody who's doing something that you're like, I'd love to do that. Oh, you're right. They're wearing Nike shoes. And it is that aspect that I love about what they have done with their marketing. And a lot of great companies that have done good marketing strategies and really been successful have gone and done that as well. It's always coming back to the target audience, looking how you add value to their life, and not doing it in a manipulative way, but doing it in a way that goes much deeper. And people feel like you want to be part of our tribe because this is who we are. And again, that also then comes from the brand humanizing who they are and saying, this is us. Like going back to that Harley description that I shared, right? Like, we're badass, we're adventurers. We don't live for the weekend. We do it every day. Like, going through all these things. And it's like, and when people go, that's me, or I want to be that person, I'm going to choose that bike. That's what
that's the first thing. That's the first thing they think of, because it's what it represents, right? Totally. Yeah.
That's awesome. Oh, that's awesome. I honestly, I laughed when I think back to some of the tattoos that I've wanted over the years. I'm glad that I haven't. It's funny, my little girls, because now that I'm covered, my girls are like, they ask me, it's not something that I thought I'd ever hear. My little daughters, they're 10 and 6, and they were like, when are you getting more? And that's always an interesting thing to hear. It's like a 10 and a 6-year-old asking when to get more. And the curious thing that I've asked them is, well, what do you think I should get? And because all of my tattoos are the story of them and my life and those that have come before me and what it represents to me, then they know that. Then they feel like they've started adding what they believe could be added as well to the story. And it's the coolest thing to hear. This has nothing really to do with the tattoos and brand, just has more of me just sharing how I just think it's a really neat thing to hear how they feel our life as our family has evolved, the story of our life and how.
But it's a story.
It's neat, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's, I mean, it's all encompassing. It's all connected. I'm the same way. Like a lot of my tattoos have been like a lot of small tattoos, like, little birds here, little this, like small things. And when my dad passed a few years ago, he loved tattoos and he was always like, you got to get a bunch of tattoos. And I was like, yeah. And like, he went to prison. He gave himself his own tattoos. Like he was like pretty hardcore. And so he was all about it. He was like, do it. So when he passed, I got a huge piece on my arm and it would just like became this thing of like how I represent myself. And now the kids do the same thing. Like the kids in our family, they pick all the tattoos they want. And so I have like little stickers all over my arm and they'll even point and be like, that's me. Yeah. But it is, again, it's a representation of what it means. Like they're little pieces to them, but it kind of signifies like my relationship with them. So it is, I mean, when we bring it back, it is really about the story and what it represents. We always talk about that. It's so meaningful. Yeah. Like if you're a company, your business, your brand, and you're working so hard on your logo and your colors, and it's like, it has to be periwinkle blue and it's got to be this, but you're not doing anything to speak to like what you represent. You're not working in your community, you're not, connecting to your people. Like that's just going to fall to the wayside, right? The idea is you got to build it from the foundations up. You have to have a really strong foundation of who you are and how you want to show up into the world. And when people start to connect to it and it creates this group and feeling like you're connected, then all of a sudden, like that's what it would represent, right? That's why I was saying it goes like deeper than, let's say, the logo. But when you talk about, let's say, Harley, like you'll forever just like, that's your first thought, right? And it's not that's what we want as like, companies. We want to be like, okay, you think about this. I want us to be the first person you think about because that's what we represent. Right.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is that, you want to live it out. Right. Like at SNR, it's like one thing for us to say that like we, I mean, you guys used to get annoyed at me when I always talk about transparency and authenticity and empathy and living those things that you're like, we get it, we hear it. But the reason why it meant so much was because we wanted to be able to create an environment where everybody in our SNR family, whether that be those that work for us, with us, clients, even people that just listen to us on, say, even this podcast or on social, wherever it may be, that they were truly getting to meet us. They were truly getting a sense for us. And ultimately too, like we care so much for our clients at SNR that we may not be the right fit for certain people because I care so much for you. I want you to have the right fit for your business so that you do find success. And so being able to share who we are, all of those things that we just talked about with this, this stories that I shared about Harley Davidson is like, even now, like sometimes I'll see him be like, that guy looks like he's having such a great time on that bike as he goes by. I don't know what he's going through. It's just that's what I built up the story in my head of like that brand, right? Like he's so free, right? As he's going to Starbucks to get his drink or something. I don't know. Like, but totally. It's like, but being able to share, at SNR, that was one of the things that we wanted was for people to know that if you see me or you see Ali or any one of the people that work at SNR out for coffee, we are that same person. And I like that. I love that. We don't have to perceive that we're something. I was just telling my wife, we were talking over the break and we were just saying that I'm kind of done going to places where I have to fake smile. And it's like, I really just love that, like getting to work with clients that are good humans, that think differently than me. They inspire me, they challenge me, but ultimately it's much, much more. And I love being able to come alongside them to provide that much more, to help share that story, to sometimes come alongside and say, listen, I know you love your logo and I know you love this and you need to be passionate, but what else is it that the community is going to gravitate to? What are your values, those things that you live out every single day? Right? The way that you treat people, the way that you listen, how do they feel when they walk into your business? If you have services that you offer, like what can they expect coming in? All of these things that just set that tone, that vibe, that feeling, that experience, those are all things that are so absolutely crucial. And I love that at SNR, those are the little details that we always are fixated on, is making sure that we get those things out in our clients' stories. And to be honest, it's because they engage so well in such a transparent way, in such an empathetic and honest way.
Yeah. No, but and it is true. It's my whole thing is like, what do people say about you, right? Like when you're not in the room, like you should, like people should feel confident enough to know exactly like who you are, right? If you're doing a good job, if you put out there, like you were saying, like, you know, you kind of were repeating ourselves, like, you know, this is our mission. This is what we stand for. If you do it well, right? And by well, I mean, just you're out there sharing your story, connecting, doing it the most authentic way possible. When you leave the room, like, what are people going to say, right? So like when we bring it back to, let's say, Disney or Harley, we're talking about these logos and like even with like my tattoo, like what it represents, like I can do that with my eyes closed. I can go in a room and be like, this is what Disney means to me. Here we go. Yeah. And I can talk to other people who can say, yeah, this is what it means to me too. And I can be like, yeah, I get that. Because cool. I'm also part of that, you know, that club.
You're
or like
my tribe.
Yeah, you're my tribe. I feel connected. Yeah. And so, and I think that's what we all want, right? Like when we think of SR, if someone's like, I want a marketing agency that's going to be able to like listen, like lead with listening, you know, help me share my story in like an open, authentic, transparent way. It's like, I want us to be the ones where you're like, yeah, I think SNR would be a really good fit. And it's the same with any other brand or business. It's like when we're showing up, I want people to be able to say like, yeah, you know, Melissa's Juicery, like she's the best. Here's what she represents. Because they're doing it well. They're showing up and being like, this is what we represent. And then that's who you attract for your people, right?
Absolutely,
so that you have those people out in your communities talking about you and saying like, this is the person, I know them. I know them so confidently, so well. And they're the first person I think of when I think of blank. Like I think you've done a good job if you're able to do that and your people know exactly like what you're about.
Yeah, I agree. I don't need to say anything more. That was awesome. 100%. Thank you. I don't. I think it's awesome. Yeah. I could keep going on the topic, but I think people can. I'm hoping. Actually, I'll just leave it with. I'm hoping people can feel our passion for this. That's the biggest thing. Is that hopefully for those that are listening, whether it be on whatever platform they're listening or they're watching us on YouTube, that they can feel that we're incredibly passionate about that, and that's something that makes us super unique at SNR. Is that we are incredibly passionate about this for each one of our clients, and I'm really proud of that. So
yeah, and if you're interested in getting a search and rescue marketing agency tattoo, we'd be interested in getting connected. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. We've never done them before, but I'm sure we could figure out a way to.
Matt has become a tattoo artist in the last 2 days, and he's looking for people.
Too funny. Well, anyways, thanks for chatting with me about this topic. That I knew it would be one that we'd have a lot of fun, but at the same time, I think it will connect with people and they'll understand just the importance of tattoos and your brand. So
yeah, I love it. I think it's a really fun one. I hadn't seen that one before, so I was like, let's go.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Cheers.